We have all heard the reminders about ticking the gift aid box when making charitable donations, be it your zakah, your sadaqah, you name it. By ticking that gift aid box, the charity can claim 25% top up from the government. But did you know that you can also claim a tax refund from HMRC straight back into your pocket as a result of those donations? It is often referred to as charitable donation tax relief. And it's not just for the lucky few, but also for the average folks just like you and I, even if your only source of income was from your full-time job. In this video, you will see just how much tax that can be saved on an annual basis just by claiming this simple tax relief, as well as how to go about claiming back that tax each year. My name is Ruzwan Boota, and I'm a chartered tax advisor and a tax director at iWorld Solicitors, which is part of the Wahed Group. And what I do on a day-to-day basis is come up with ways for individuals and business owners to save tax. So without further delay, let's jump straight into it. Let's start with employees, which I'm sure is many of you that are watching this video today. You work as an employee for a business and you get paid a regular salary and perhaps even a cheeky bonus at the end of the financial year. So first, it's important that you know how is that income taxed every year. So that first slice of income up to 12,500 roughly is your personal allowance. That is tax-free. The next 37,000 is then taxed at 20%. Then the next slice of income up to 100,000 is taxed at 40%. And then between 100,000 and 125,000, actually there's an effective tax rate of up to 60% there, which we'll talk about on a later video. And then finally, for any income above 125,000, that's taxed at a rate of 45%. Now, when you make charitable donations, what happens is that these tax bands are actually moved up. So the more that you give to charity, the more that these tax bands increase. But what does that mean for you and I? It means that actually more of your income is going to get taxed at 20% rather than at 40 or 45%, meaning a tax refund of between 20 to 25%. So let's put some numbers to it then. Now, what we've done, we've actually prepared a charitable donations tax savings calculator, which is available for everyone to download, and the link is in the description below. All it requires is a few simple details. So here you go, I've got my laptop now with me, and we're going to go through the calculations together using the calculator. So let's say that you had a salary of £65,000 and you want to make a donation to charity during the year of £7,000. That includes your zakat, your sadaqah, everything that you've done during the year. Then in step 2, it's saying here that if you earn that level of income but made no charitable donations, the tax liability is going to be approximately £13,500. However, if you want to make a donation, in this case of £7,000, the tax refund that's due back to you is £1,750. And this is simply, again, going back to what I said before, simply about the tax bands being increased, which means more of your income is now being subject to the 20% tax rate rather than the 40% tax rate. Now, this can calculate whatever your scenario is. So let's just say that you're a £100,000 salary earner and you want to give a donation of £20,000. The tax refund due to you is £5,000 in that scenario. But note that this will only work if you're at least a higher rate taxpayer. So if we said that we had a £50,000 salary and you wanted to give £2,000 charitable donation, no tax saving because you haven't gone above the basic rate band yet. Only once you go above the basic rate band, so let's just say £55,000, that's when you're starting to make a tax saving. So what this calculator then does, it gives you a recommendation, explains to you why there's a tax saving, and then in this final step here, it actually tells you what's the next step. What do you need to do? And in this case here, it's saying, okay, now we need to input these charitable donations into your tax return if you prepare one. If you don't prepare a tax return already, then that's completely fine. You can either call HMRC or write to them to claim that tax refund. And if you want to write to HMRC, on this next tab, we've got an example letter there. You can just populate your details, print that off, send it to HMRC. There you go, you'll get your tax return. So play around with this calculator and you can see just how much tax you can save. And remember guys, this is tax planning 101. So many people ask me, 1 minute, how is it that I've not heard about this before? And I say, look, this is basic tax planning. We actually learn about this. Anyone that's studying accounts or tax, they learn about this right at the start when they're learning about how the tax bands operate. Unfortunately, this knowledge just isn't shared widely. This is why we're doing this video, to make sure that everyone can get this benefit. So now let's go on to talk about companies. Now, those of you with your own businesses and a limited company, you will very likely have an account already that will handle this all for you. But very quickly, charitable donations from your company are an allowable expense when calculating profits. So you will deduct that charitable donation just like any other expense that you have within the business, be it salaries or wherever else it might be. As a result, there'll be a corporation tax saving of between 19 and 25% depending on the level of profits for the business. Just make sure that you're sharing these details of the donations with your accountant so they can claim it on your company tax return. So for those of you with companies, you actually have a choice. It doesn't mean that you have to put all the donations through your companies. Actually, in certain circumstances, it may be better for you to still donate in your personal name. It very much comes down to crunching the numbers. Don't take it as a default that it has to be put through your company. Now, this is where the tax calculator is useful as well, because we can look at the tax calculator and actually input your details to see what it throws up as the best way to structure your donations. Of course, this tax calculator isn't meant to be 100% accurate because there are certain nuances to the calculation that would need to be looked at. But at least it forms a good discussion tool with your accountant to see if this is still the best way to structure your charitable donation. So let's have a look at the calculator, and you can input your details again. So let's say that you took a salary of £40,000 from the business and a dividend also, let's say £40,000 again, and you got taxable profits of £100,000 in the business after deducting salaries. And let's say you want to make a charitable donation of £20,000. Now, what I would say here is that if you made no charitable donations, your tax liability across the company as well as personal income tax would be approximately £40,000, just shy of that. If you made a donation via your limited company, you would save £5,300 in tax. However, if you did it via your personal name, the donation, you would get a tax saving of just over £6,000. So in this case, it's definitely better to do the charitable donation in your personal name, just because of that extra tax saving. So this calculation isn't meant to be 100% accurate. It doesn't factor in things like national insurance contributions, for example, because there's a lot more nuance to it. But at least this serves as a good discussion tool with your accountant to then just crunch the numbers a little bit more to make sure you're not just going for the default of just thinking, yeah, let's just put this through the limited company. Actually, sometimes you could save a hell of a lot more tax just putting it through your personal name, the donations. So regardless of whatever your situation is, make sure you download the calculator and see how much tax you could be saving immediately. You can use the link in the description to download the tax calculator now. And again, for business owners, make sure you're having the discussions with your accountant as well, or even with a tax advisor to make sure you're getting the best advice to save you as much tax as possible. So there you go, tax refunds that I'm sure many of you can benefit from. I'm sure many of you think you've never heard of this before, but alhamdulillah, even those of you that only take a salary from your employment, that's your only source of income, even you guys can benefit as well, inshallah. You're all doing the hard part already. You're making the donation to charity. You just now need to claim that tax back from HMRC too. So bismillah, go forth and claim your tax refunds. I look forward to speaking to you on the next video. Assalamu alaikum.